Welcome to the Smart and Soulful Money Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie B. Van Winkle. I'm a socially responsive investment advisor with Natural Investments, and a warm welcome to you. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of having Barbara Huson as my guest. Barbara Huson, you might know her as Barbara Stanny, is the leading authority on women, wealth, and power. As a best-selling author, financial therapist, teacher, and wealth coach, Barbara has helped millions take charge of their finances and their lives. Barbara's background in business, her years as a journalist, her master's degree in counseling psychology, her extensive research, and her personal experience with money give her a unique perspective and make her the foremost expert on empowering women to live up to their financial and personal potential. Barbara is the author of 6 books: Prince Charming Isn't Coming, Secrets of Six-Figure Women, Overcoming Under-Earning, Finding a Financial Advisor You Can Trust, Breaking Through, and Sacred Success, A Course in Financial Miracles. You can learn more about Barbara and her work at barbara-huson.com, which we'll put a link in the show notes for easy access. Barbara, I think I've read 5 of those 6 books, so I have one that I need to order ASAP, it looks like. But welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you with me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Well, today I wanted our main focus to be on what you have taught about in your book, Sacred Success, A Course in Financial Miracles. For me, this brought forward some of what you had introduced in earlier books, like Overcoming Under-Earning and Prince Charming Isn't Coming, Secrets of Six-Figure Women, and framed it in a way that really especially resonated for me, bringing the spirituality, our spirit, into our money life, into our power, talking about power in this book in a way that I had not heard anyone talk about women in power before. It was really exciting when I was first introduced to your book, and it was exciting to read it again to prepare for our conversation today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was actually a very scary book for me to write. It took me 7 years to actually get myself the courage to do it. I had the idea for a long time, but I was like coming out of my spiritual closet because I'm a very practical person. I'm very practical when it comes to finances, but I'm also very spiritual. And I know in my own financial journey, the spiritual was a very big component of me going from feeling stupid to getting smart about money. So I decided that, well, I believe that financial success is not just a practical process, but it is a spiritual journey. It is a rite of passage into our power.
Into our power, yes, yes. And I would be surprised if anyone has a transformation in their relationship with power where it didn't include their spirituality.
Well, not everyone is
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, and I totally understand that, and I respect that. But I wrote this for women who are or are yearning for some deeper meaning in their life. And I say in all my books, it is not about money. It is about power. And women's difficulties with money is nothing to do with money. It has to do with their fear of or ambivalence about power. And my definition of a powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and expresses that in the world unapologetically. Because too many of us, me for most of my life, we tend to water ourselves down so we don't make waves. And what I want to encourage women is to make waves, make huge waves, because the world needs us. The world needs more enlightened men and empowered women.
So that was very true when this book first came out, I think in 2014. And then 5 years later, that feels even more important than ever. Some shifts have happened, particularly in the last few years. Will you talk more about that?
Well, I'll tell you, the things that were very exciting for me The financial crisis and the 2016 election had a real impact on women with everything I've read. That with the financial crisis in 2008, suddenly women always knew they had to get smart, but it took on a kind of a more of an emergency, more of an urgency. That's the word, more of an urgency. That women really said, I better get my act together, my financial act together. I got to get smart about this. And then the election happened, and for some of us, it was a call to action from women to step into their power, to 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 heal themselves so they could heal the world, so they could make changes in the world. They could bring the feminine energy back into it. There's still a lot of progress to be made, but I care about helping each individual woman make progress within herself, because it's from each individual woman stepping into a power that we will have the 100th monkey, that suddenly all women will be doing it.
So I haven't heard that phrase. Is there something to the 100th monkey?
See if I can remember it. But they were teaching monkeys. They were trying to teach a monkey to do something. Oh, I know. A monkey got his hand stuck in a coconut, and the scientists were teaching, or the researchers were teaching him how to take it out. And monkeys kept getting their hand stuck, and somehow something happened, and all of a sudden they called it the 100th monkey. Suddenly, as many monkeys learned, suddenly every monkey knew how to get their hand out of the coconut. And I don't know if that's the truth of the coconut or if that's the true story, but it explains kind of the mass consciousness that we're trying to create. That if enough of us step into our power, if enough of us really own our finances, if enough of us really grow up and become powerful women, not dependent children, I think that we will have the resources, the vision, the values, the sensitivity to change this world, to heal this planet.
Yes, I do too. Tell us what it is you're talking about when you say sacred success.
I grew up financially clueless. I always write about what I need to learn. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s and I was a journalist, and someone hired me to research women who were smart with money. And suddenly I went from being financially clueless to being a financial expert. I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming: How Women Get Smart About Money. And so what happened is I wrote my Secrets of Six-Figure Women. I made six figures, and then I wrote Overcoming Under Earning because I wanted to teach people what I was learning. And finally one day, I don't know when, about 2009, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I woke up one morning and I had a new goal. I want to make millions, help millions, give millions. I want to make millions, help millions, give millions. I thought, that's my new goal. So I'm going to interview women who make millions, and that will be my next book. And so I started interviewing these women. And 3 years later, this was like in 2006. 3 years later, I had no book. I had nowhere near making $1 million. And a coach said to me, Barbara, you're too into doing. You need time for just being. So I went on a retreat, a 4-day retreat, took all my all the transcripts of my interviews. I had no trouble finding women who made millions. And when I was on this quiet, silent retreat without distraction, and I relaxed, I read those transcripts and I saw what I had missed. It wasn't the fact that these women were making so much money and my desire to duplicate it. It was how they were doing it. And they were doing it in a very different way than the world models, i.e. men modeled. And I called this different way sacred success. And sacred success means pursuing your soul's purpose for your own bliss and the benefit of others while being richly rewarded. So these women were not, they absolutely wanted to make a profit. There's no doubt about that. But profit was not their primary goal. It was definitely their intention, but their primary goal was greatness, achieving greatness. And I define greatness, paraphrasing a quote by Fred Buchner: greatness is that place where your deep gladness, doing what you're put on this planet to do, meets the world's deep hunger. And that is what sacred success is about. It's about leaving a legacy and modeling greatness.
One of the things you talk about in the book is engaging versus abdicating. And this can be in any area of our life, but particular to our money life with power also. I think particularly women, we've been in situations where you talk about this in the book and you explain it very well. How women, for different reasons, have felt more comfortable abdicating our power generally and abdicating our power in our money life. And you share some important stories about how you realized you were abdicating your own power, particularly in your money life, and then the consequences you experienced from that. If you don't mind sharing about one of these times and how you moved through it towards embracing your power and the opportunity of money in your life?
So let me give you a quick synopsis of my story. So I grew up wealthy. My father was the R of H&R Block, and the only advice he ever gave me about money was don't worry. And of course, under that was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you. And I thought that was great advice. I didn't understand money. I just wanted to spend it. And I married a man who was a stockbroker. But what I didn't realize until very early in our marriage is he was a compulsive gambler. And even though I find out many times a year that he was gambling my money, my inheritance away, I still let him manage the money because that's how terrified I was and intimidated by anything to do with finances. And finally, after 15 years of marriage, I got a divorce. And I decided money's not my thing. I do not want to deal with money. Well, I have this theory: if you don't deal with money, your money will deal with you. And I got tax bills for over $1 million for back taxes my ex didn't pay, for illegal deals he got us in. And of course, my signature was on everything. My ex, by this time, had left the country. I had nowhere near $1 million, nowhere near $1 million left in my trust, and my father wouldn't lend me the money. And I had 3 girls. I was not going to raise them on the street. That's when I knew I had to get smart. That's when I got this gig, this freelance gig, to interview women who were smart with money. And I remember one thing I noticed. That was in 1995. The book came out in 1997, and it's still selling because I think it really struck a chord. And what I found when I interviewed these women who were really smart with money is that the big thing was owning their power. That was like the major thing that they all had to come to. And I remember saying to a psychologist who specialized in money, I said, why are women so afraid of their power? And she said to me something that gave me chills. She said, powerful women have been burned at the stake. And I think there is something in our collective unconsciousness that terrifies us, that if we stand up and take up space and speak our truth, that we will be punished. I mean, this may not be rational. And so this is scary. And plus, I think the financial industry makes finances and money and investing so complicated. It makes it's crazy complicated when it's not that complicated. That's what I realized when I really started getting serious. It's not that it doesn't take a lot of money to create wealth. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's not that hard, even though there's a whole industry out there to convince us otherwise. But it's small steps consistently taken that create remarkable results.
What did that shift look like for you, coming from that hugely challenging situation that you found yourself in, kicked out of the nest, your dad's nest, where he wasn't going to help you, getting this huge tax bill, being divorced, having your kids? How did you make that shift to engage with your money and turn that around?
One of the things I saw from these women who are smart with money is what I've seen from all women who are earning a lot and managing it wisely. It wasn't so much what they did, it was how they thought. And when I shifted my thinking, and the way I did this, I remember there was one specific incident that was a real turning point. Because I would start reading, I would go to classes, I would do all the things you're supposed to do. But it's like my eyes would glaze over, my brain would fog up. I just feel like I'm terminally stupid. So I made an appointment to go to therapy. And I went to my therapist and I said to him, Daniel, I really want to get smart about money. I really do. I need to. I have to. I want to. And he looked me in the eye and he just held my gaze and he said, no, you don't. And it was like there was a part of me that couldn't argue. It was like there was a part of me I came to realize in that moment. As much as I wanted to, there was a bigger part that was scared. Scared if I started taking responsibility for the money, I'd lose it all. Better to let my husband do that than me. Scared that my parents would be upset. That would they think. But most of all, I was scared that a man wouldn't love me if I became financially successful. And as I worked on that with him, well, what really the three things I noticed were there's the outer work of wealth. I think wealth, getting smarter is a three-pronged process. There's the outer work, which most of the world's focused on, which I was focused on, which my eyes would glaze over, and I just couldn't get it. And then there's the inner work, which happened when I went to that therapist, and I realized there's a part of me that doesn't. And then there's the higher work of wealth, which is the spiritual component. I believe we are all here for a purpose, and we can't possibly pursue our purpose and play full out if we're struggling to make ends meet, if we're drowning in debt, if money is a distraction. It was about that time that I found A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a spiritual text that, like, you wouldn't want to drop that sucker on your toe. You know, it's like big and it is hard to understand. And I don't know what drove me to keep reading it. But that really, between doing the inner work and doing the higher work, I was able to finally integrate the outer work and finally start the veils lifted. And when I realized that I had a purpose here, and it was not just about the money, because we women really, once we're financially stable, we're not really motivated by making more. I mean, we want to, but we're not really. What motivates us is making a difference, is helping others, is leaving a legacy. And when I got that sense, when I realized that's my purpose, and I needed to get my finances together so that I could live my purpose. And then I realized that all that I went through with my money was really my purpose. I'm here to educate and help women who also have some resistance. And that's really all I do, is help women pass their resistance.
In the book, you say that your financial education became a spiritual journey. If you have something else to say here, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you see money and power as a part of one's spiritual journey.
The money is a metaphor for power, because to be good stewards of our money, it's who we have to become, the person we have to be, the person we were meant to be. And that's scary. That means we have to know who we are. We have to speak up and say no when we don't want something. We say yes. We have to be truly authentic and truly who are ourselves. And when that happens, we see money no longer as a source of stress or distraction, but as a tool for helping us create the life we want to live on our own terms, to pursue our purpose in the fullest way possible. Money is simply a tool. And once I put it in that perspective, it just changed everything. It was never about the money. It was about who I had to become to be a good steward of the money.
At some point, I have gone back to look to see where I got this. I remember hearing, I feel like if it was not you, it was Lynn Twist or someone called money a sacred tool. And that really stuck with me. And that's something that I bring into my work to help, as you're doing, help women shift the way they see money as something that can often have a lot of negative baggage, negative stories, negative, connotations for people, and help them see, like you're saying, that it really can be a means to positive impact in our own life and in the world and in the life of our loved ones. So is that something you've said before, or am I
Well,
just
I have. I have said that
okay.
many times, but maybe someone else said it too. I don't know. Maybe someone else
I
said it.
probably heard you say it, and now I can attribute it to you officially. But I love that. I love the idea.
There was a line in my book when I was writing it. I kept taking it out and putting it in, taking it out and putting it in. I was really scared. And then I saw when my book came out, Sacred Success, and I got a raving, glorious review from Publishers Weekly, which is like the publishing Bible. And the first sentence in this review was the sentence I was scared to put in. And the sentence was, I believe that money is God made visible.
Mm.
And I believe that money and who we have to become to be a good container that can hold the money is what enables us to create the world we want to create, to make a difference, to heal ourselves and heal the world. For me, getting smart about money or really taking control, taking responsibility was very much of a personal healing. Very much. And it was also a learning.
Yes. What does power look like in your life now?
You know how you know when you give your power away? You're not happy. Anytime you are not happy, you look and you will see you are giving your power away. You are giving your power to someone or something else. And I'm pretty happy. I'm very happy, as a matter of fact. I have a really good life. I have challenges, but the challenges don't make me unhappy. They force me to grow. Now, I might not like those challenges, they may not feel good, but they don't make me unhappy.
I'm assuming here from just hearing you talk and reading your books that this has been this process for you of embracing your power. Now it seems like it's your new normal. It's, the way you are on a daily basis. And so what does that look like when you're embracing your power, when you're engaging with your power?
Really, when you boil it right down, power is truth. When you speak your truth, when you live your truth, you're in your power. And so for me, it's been a very long journey of figuring out what was true for me and what wasn't, and having the courage to speak it. And I think that's why I have such great relationships. I have a great husband now. I've gone through two. This one's a good one. This is a keeper.
You
Because
changed your last name for him.
I did. I didn't do it for him.
Oh, okay. I'm
Because
sorry.
he even said, don't do this for me. And I said, I'm not. But why would I have the name, Stanny, of a husband who was never happy with me, who didn't respect me, when I have a husband who totally respects me, totally hates when I give my power away, does not want me to do it, and who's a powerful man himself? Not because power is not power over, power is power with. That's how we women see power. It's through our relationships, not by power over, but by collaboration and nurturing. And so, and no one's ever asked me that question, but I feel very powerful, and I can tell. I can tell when I don't. When I'm around my mother, sometimes she just triggers me, and I just regress. And I said, "Oh, I'm giving my power away," and I just have to remove myself and get my head straight again.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. In the book, you talk about the feminine face of wealth and power. So, what does that look like? And you said it in the book, it's considerably different from what the male world models.
Because as I mentioned, for men, it's very much power over. For women, it's very much power with. We see and we create our power through our relationships. Men create power through their dominance. Now, there's exceptions to all this, of course, but that's what I see as one of the biggest differences. And I'm sure I wrote more about it in my book, but since I'm writing another book right now, I'm kind of not focused on that book. So
Your head's in a different place. Uh-huh.
Yes, but yeah. And I think the reason I wrote Sacred Success was not only I wanted women to understand that there's a greater intelligence, whatever you call this higher power, God, the universe, whatever, getting in relationship to that higher power is really important. It's all about relationship with yourself, relationship with others, and relationship to your higher power. And that's what builds trust.
It's not only about male female, as far as, like you said, how women tend to prefer one way of being in a relationship with power, men tend to prefer another way, but it's really about the way I guess I see it, and the way you name it is feminine face of power, not women's face of power. You know, it's the feminine and masculine, which we all have within us. And even women, you know, I did this as I entered the workforce, and for many, many years felt that the only way to show power in the leadership positions that I was in was to wear a masculine version of that. And now through teaching that you've done and others have done, and the cultural shifts, now it seems that there's more room for women to really discover and embrace what feels authentic to them as far as what power looks like for them and how they want to engage with it.
Oh, you put that beautifully. Thank you.
Just repeating what I've learned from you with some years to integrate it. Actually, when I was preparing for our conversation, Barbara, I was going through each chapter was just like, oh, we could spend so much time on this. You know, there's so much here. It's very easy to digest. It's a very easy to read book. And at the same time, the wisdom here, that I think that was your intention. You say in the book that this is really a rite of passage to go through what's in the book, to integrate it into our own lives, to go through the activities that you have in the book, reflections and doing certain things, is really your gift as a rite of passage for women to be able to move into a more confident and engaged way of being with their money and with power. And thank you for that gift of this book.
Thank you.
In having to, narrow the focus of our conversation, there were a few things I really wanted to highlight. And one of them is you teach about the 4 core principles of sacred success. And this is really where our power rests, on this foundation. Would you talk a little bit about these 4 principles?
Okay, so you're going to have to refresh my mind, but I know one of them.
Sure.
I know one of them is integrity. That integrity is, I think I wrote sacrosanct to success. That in this day and age, integrity is knowing who you are and living that out in the world. It is being that your words and deeds reflect who you are. And I think we're seeing all around us in the newspaper, in current events, in the media, what happens when people aren't in integrity. No one's too big to fall when they're out of integrity. And no one's too small to soar when they're in integrity. What was the other ones? I remember the 4th one, but we'll get to that last. What was this?
Financial well-being is essential to achieving greatness. I think that's an important message for women to hear.
Yeah, and financial well-being is that you are at peace with your money. That it's not a source of stress or distraction, which it is for most women, whether you have money or not. I mean, I met women. I got excited here. I met women who have millions and millions of dollars, but no well-being, no sense of peace. They feel insecure. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to enjoy it. They don't understand it. And so that is not a powerful woman. That is not a powerful woman. You don't have to have a lot of money to have wealth and well-being. And let me just explain when I say wealth. There's 3 levels of financial development. There's survival, stability, and affluence. Survival is not enough. Stability is enough. And affluence is more than enough. I'm really interested in helping women go from stability or wobbly stability to affluence, to have more than enough. Not because so they can have a bigger bank balance, which is lovely, but I want them to have more than enough in a way that they can live their life authentically. And that's what's important. So back to your question. So wealth without well-being is not what I'm after. And it's not what I want anyone to be after. I was much wealthier when I was, well, I really wasn't. Now I've gotten really good. But when I was before I got smart money and I had all this money in my inheritance, I had a lot of money. But there's no way I felt secure or confident. No.
And so the third is power demands responsibility.
Yes. Yes. And if we want to be powerful with our money, we must be responsible with our money. And responsible means really appreciating it and respecting it by taking care of it. And it's like anything, whether it's a treasured friend or a treasured antique, it's not going to stick around for long if you don't respect it and appreciate money. And the way you appreciate money, the way you are responsible for money is just there's only 3 rules. There's only 3 you have to follow. There's three rules of wealth. You spend less, you save more, and you invest wisely. That's how you take responsibility with money.
I would add too, which you talk about in the book, that doing that in a way, well, I guess that's the integrity part. I was going to say taking responsibility means something about being a good steward and doing that in a way that's aligned with their values, but that's probably more under the integrity part too.
Well, yeah, the whole idea of integrity is that you know who you are and you know what you want, and that every choice you make, whether it's with money or men or food, reflects who you are, reflects the truth of who you are.
Yes.
That's power.
And then the fourth, power comes from one of 2 sources, love or fear.
That's right. So power, it's like power, it depends where, it's like if you're like plugging in, you're like an electric lamp. To get a lamp to turn on, we have to plug it in. For you to have power, you decide where you're going to plug into. The voice of fear, which is your ego, or the voice of love, which is your soul. And this was a very, very important concept for me. That's more of a spiritual concept, I suppose. I got it from the Course in Miracles, but many, many, many places you read about it. The ego, its only job is to keep you safe. And it learned how to keep you safe when you were young. And it helped you survive. And survival for a child is getting love, attention, and approval from their caretakers. The soul knows you're safe. It wants you to soar. It gets its marching orders directly from the divine. And I found it's really important. Our ego always speaks loudest, always speaks first. We are very fear-based individuals because that's how we're wired. From ancient history, our primitive ancestors, brains, the only purpose of the brain was to keep us out of trouble and to keep us alive. And that's our primitive brain. Well, as we've matured and we've grown and we've evolved, we now have a more modern brain that can figure things out, that can think things through, that's logical, that's practical. But anytime there's any sign of a threat or we interpret it as a threat, our primitive brain goes, stop, don't go there. And that's our ego. Our ego is there to protect us. And we think it's truth, but it's not. It's just fear. And so much of going to greatness is disconnecting from your fear and connecting to your soul, which is the source of your wisdom.
So what does that look like in your money life?
The number one requirement to going that next level financially, whether it's making more or managing it better, is to do what you don't want to do what you're scared to do what's really not comfortable. I ask under earners, when's the last time you did something you thought you couldn't do? And they'll go, I don't know. I don't know. I ask high earners. They say all the time. It's a way of life. In fact, there's a high earner motto. They say, I just say yes. Unless it's immoral or illegal, I just say yes. I was terrified to start learning about and managing money. Terrified, as most women are when they come to me. Something about it scares them. And so it's a matter of separating from the ego, which will never shut up, and getting still enough to listen to your inner wisdom, to the divine leading you, guiding you where you need to go. And so when I get scared, which I do all the time, when I get scared, I breathe, take deep breaths, and then I just try to get quiet as much as I can and see what my inner wisdom has to give me.
And to bring that into our relationship with money, I think is very powerful. It's not something that we grew up connecting together, our spiritual life, or like you said, even if it's not for someone spiritual, simply if you feel anxious, bringing in this tool of calming, recognizing how you're feeling and calming yourself. I was just talking to Barry Tesler recently about this, the body check-in. So using these tools to just go into our, before you engage with your money, before you go in and talk to your financial advisor, before you get online and check your accounts, to get yourself in a place that is more relaxed, more calm, more grounded, really helps that experience become more positive for you.
Right. Otherwise, you go into fight, flight, or freeze. That's when the ego gets scared. The ego thinks you are in some threatening situation where you're going to lose something, and you go into fight, flight, or freeze. That's just the way our brain works: fight, flight, or freeze. And the way to get out of that is to calm that primitive brain, to calm it. And deep breathing, and yawning are great ways. Because what happens is when you're in that fear, when the ego's screaming, don't go there, dangerous, you're secreting all these stress hormones that are getting you ready for danger, your body. So it's like you have no choice. Your body is alerting you to danger. And so if you can quiet all that and get yourself quiet before you get online to check your credit score, before you go to that job interview, before you ask for the raise, it allows your thinking brain to be on alert. It allows your thinking brain to be active.
You talk about the 4 stages on the path of sacred success.
That I know very well. Those are fast. I've lived those stages.
These are powerful. Would you introduce us to the 4 stages?
Yes. So the first stage, which I believe that millions of women are going through now, maybe men too, I don't know. I only work with women. The first stage is what I call the call to greatness. We are all receiving the call. For me, it was burnout. For others, it's some form of unhappiness or frustration or boredom or loss of energy or something. And all that is, the call, all it is our soul calling to us. Stop what you're doing, pay attention. There's a bigger game to play. And instead of trying to push through it or ignore it, it's really important to honor that call, that there's something around the corner that you will miss if don't have your eyes open to it. And that is the call. It always feels uncomfortable. It always feels uncomfortable because what the Course says, discomfort is aroused only to bring the need for correction into your awareness. So whenever you're feeling uncomfortable or not happy, all that is you need to pay attention. Something is trying to get your attention. You need to do something different. And the second stage, I noticed, so I interviewed I don't know how many women who made millions. And what I noticed this phenomena is that right before they really started soaring, they fell into like this, they sank into like this limbo, this in between, this void. And usually it was preceded by a crisis, like really nasty stuff, like breast cancer or alcoholic breakdowns or bankruptcy. But what I noticed, every woman, every man, every human being goes through crisis. But not everyone comes out making millions or soaring into the stratosphere. The difference between these women is that they, at some point, stopped. As one woman said to me, I stopped and regrouped and came back stronger. And this is the stage I call receptive surrender. That means when you get the call to greatness and you notice you're unhappy, we are a culture that does, do, push. That is so counterproductive. What we need to do is just stop, maybe for a moment, maybe longer, to just tune in to what our soul is telling us. So what happened is when I got back from this retreat I did, when I was trying to write this book on women who make millions, and I couldn't, and I took this retreat where sacred success came to me. And so the steps came to me pretty soon after that. And so before I did anything, I started living them. And so what happened was I got the call, I came back, and my business partner and I broke up. And this was devastating to me because I'm the visionary, but she was the brains. And I didn't think I could run a business by myself. And so I decided I'm just going to step back. I thought I'm going to step back for a month, take some time off. Well, it turned out to be 9 months. But during those 9 months is when I developed sacred success. And then at some point, I felt ready for the third stage, which was disciplined action. And I started by giving a sacred success retreat. I started going back into speaking, going back into coaching, and I started writing my book. These 3 stages, the call to greatness, receptive surrender, and disciplined action, they kind of go back and forth. You get the call, you step back, you move forward, you get the call again, you move forward, you keep doing that, and it all gets you to the 4th step, which is modeling greatness by leaving a legacy. And that's when I knew that my legacy was not money. It was not money. It was about power. And it was that power is not just a practical process. It is a spiritual practice. So that's how I applied those steps to my life. And then I wrote my book, and the rest is history.
I have definitely been living my version of the 4 stages, and I would say it almost seems like there are these bigger dramatic cycles of the 4 stages. For me, that included over a decade of working in a nonprofit setting as a nonprofit leader. I had already been introduced to working with people in their money life at that point, but I was getting the call stronger and stronger to work more fully, and knew I wanted to be a certified financial planner and really, really help people in their money life in a more focused way than I was doing before that. And my push out of the nest was to get laid off. And otherwise I never would have.
I love how that happens.
Well, and I would have never left the comfort of a W-2 job. I would have never thought that I was an entrepreneur and able to have my own business. I found out I really was well suited for it, but, never would have done that without somebody outside of me, pushing me out of the nest, somebody or something. So, and really this powerful phase that just seems to have layers and layers. The receptive surrender, that experience, is so important. I feel like I'm very much, in some ways on the other side of that in in some ways in my life, and really getting into the disciplined action phase. And the receptive surrender just feels like, yeah, that peeling of layers off, that where a lot of shoulds, I think a lot of shoulds I just kept putting on myself over, growing up and years, and then just releasing a lot of those. So yes, it's
Beautiful.
powerful and very meaningful,
Beautiful.
these
Well,
phases. So I have this Empower Your Money for Good framework that I use to help people see how these areas of your money life, you can bring values into those areas, whether it be your job, your business, your income, the way you give, your philanthropy, which you give great examples of that in the book, where you bank, where your credit card, where you have your credit card even. And then of course my deep work in the world is helping people invest in a way that's aligned with their values. Oh, and the big one is what you buy, how you spend your money. How have you brought values into your money life? What does this look like for you?
I think the biggest way probably is which I guess is the philanthropy part. So what I love doing, which makes me so happy, is empowering other women, not just having them pay me, but like I send my assistant's daughter to camp. I'm sending her to an after school program that they can't afford. I love paying my cleaning lady way more than the going wage is here. I love lending money to friends or people I know that are opening businesses and charging them a low interest rate. I just love helping others bring joy to their life. And if I can do that with my profession, and if I can do that with my prosperity, however I can do that.
It's such a mix of examples too that we wouldn't normally think of as all philanthropy, but the way you're moving money through your life that really connects with their values, and it sounds like even, really brings you joy to have this ability to make some choices about, helping a child go to camp, and
Yeah.
all the
And
ways it can look like.
like I'm not a big traveler, but I love to travel to see my kids. So I'll spend money to travel to see my kids anytime. I don't really my husband and I are not big travelers. We both traveled so much. So I love to spend money to go see my kids. Love to spend money on my grandkids. That's
That's an
I
important value.
yeah.
Yes. You mentioned that you're working on a new book. Would you like to share anything about it
Yeah.
now? Or okay,
Yeah, it will come out January 12th, 2021. So,
fantastic.
yeah, so I'm working on it now. And that's why it's so nice to hear you say that the book, my last book, it was so easy to read and inspiring because it is really hard for me to write a book. It's really hard. So, but it's called The Rewire Response. And what I've done is I've added neuroscience to the spirituality psychology and mixed it with personal finance. And I found that helping you understand how to use your mind to rewire your brain makes the learning curve, makes the so much easier and helps you get past the resistance so much quicker.
I can see it just such the natural progression from what you talk about in Sacred Success, how you talk about tools like you just mentioned, even tools like meditation to help us engage in a new way with our money, in a healthier way with our money. It makes so much sense that this would be your next phase of teaching and learning around neuroscience.
I did not see it coming. But what happened is after my book came out, Sacred Success, my last book, about a year after that, things were going great. It was the best years I was ever having financially, in my personal life. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden, the damnedest thing happened. I lost interest in my work. I would get up and I would dread the day. And I would think, whoa, what is going on? And I knew it was the call to greatness. I knew there was something I needed to stop and pay attention. So I stopped seeing clients. I stopped giving all my retreats. I just pretty much stopped everything. And then one day, I was kind of scrolling through my email, and I got an article about neuroscience. I didn't even know what neuroscience was. I mean, I knew it had to do with the brain, but I read this article, and it was like my brain lit up like a Christmas tree. This is it. This is it. This is the missing piece. And that was 4 years ago. I did a Rewire retreat. I started giving Rewire mentorship programs and Rewire intensives, and then I got a publisher, and now I'm writing the book.
Fantastic. Is there a way that people can engage with your work in addition to simply reading the books?
Yeah, I have a free ebook that we just brought it out. It's called Rewire for Wealth, and it's a short ebook, but it very much explains the rewire process and gives examples. I really was excited to share this. And I also have an online community called the Wealth Connection, and that's just a very safe place for women to talk about money openly, candidly, and not just about the difference between a stock and a bond, which we talk about investing. We talk about asking for a raise, but we also talk about our fear and our resistance and our mistakes. And it's a real community, and I do group coaching twice a month. And it's just been a really fun group. I'm really enjoying that.
We'll put the links. How can people connect with your online community and then also with the free ebook?
Just go to my website.
Okay.
Barbara-Huson.com.
Great. Wonderful. Many times I have been on a video call with a client or in person sitting, in the office with a client, and we're supposed to be talking in quotes about their investments and, all of that piece of their money life. We kind of take a step back and, there's so much more about their relationship with money that they're bringing into those meetings with me and their work with me. And there's something especially relevant, I think, about Sacred Success for women if they are business owners. But I think it's fantastic for any woman. So I've often recommended your book for clients who really, I think, can be supported by more of that foundation work. So to then be able to, not only have the book, but then go into a community like that with you, have you, twice a month, do community calls and just go into this material more deeply with you. I think it's fantastic.
We also have experts once a quarter. I would love you to come into the community and be an expert.
I'd love to, Barbara. Yes,
okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. And of course, we will be super excited for January 12th, 2021 for your new book to come out. Thank you for your dedication to being the vessel that puts these very important books into the world. We haven't really talked about overcoming under earning, but that one for anybody, especially women who feel like they're always undervaluing or they're always struggling with money, undervaluing themselves when it comes to money, that still feels very relevant and powerful. And then Prince Charming isn't coming. I just think there are so many layers to what you teach in that as well that we continue to learn and realize in our life. Like, oh, I thought Prince Charming was looking like this for me, even though like for me specifically, I never imagined a Prince Charming. I was like the individual, independent woman who was going to, earn my own money. But we all have these versions of Prince Charming, that version of what we think will save us in our money life. And yeah, just powerful work that you've put into the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here today. Yeah, fantastic.